What's up, guys? We are on the Cash Flow to Go show. We are live. We got Matt McKeever on the text, but very special guest right here, my friend Dean. And guys, please go put your kids to bed. If you don't like sensitive topics or anything like that, log off. Don't even watch the show because we got Dean in the house.
I've been told to behave myself.
You've been told to behave yourself. Even though we have some booze, we will cut it off in an hour. So don't think you're gonna get one of those like Christmas Matt McKeever, Jeff Wybo specials that went around. I think that went viral. MTV covered it, I think. So.
We saw it down south.
Or it was on you're down south.
Yeah, down south.
I think what is it? What's the one in LA? The
TV?
Yeah, like TMZ. TMZ covered Matt McKeever and Jeff Wybo on the show. But we have Dean in the show tonight. I don't know how many people have already logged in, but Dean is one of my best buddies. He's got pictures of me in his house. It's a little creepy. But he is a contractor in the city. Okay, he helped me even get my very first property way back in 2012 when I first came home from Afghanistan. When I didn't have a home inspector, and I had Dean go through it, and he just said, yes, it's a house, buy it. So
pretty much.
Right? He's like, it's got a roof, a boiler, some walls. Like, what do you want, man?
Been here for 40 years, we'll be here for 40 more.
Yeah, like, and you can say that amongst the 100-year-old houses in any city that you're tuning in. So, very special. This is honestly the only social media Dean has ever done in his life. I had to bribe him.
Yeah.
So he has no Facebook, no nothing. He's a changed man because he's going to be living the Caribbean dream pretty soon. So this guy works every single day. Okay, so you guys talk about we're in his beautiful one-bedroom apartment here. He worked pretty hard for it. Let me give you a little bit of, I'm doing all talking, but let me give you a little bit of Dean's backstory.
I'm dying to hear what's going to come out of your mouth.
Yeah, so any question I've ever had, it could be, he's not a real estate agent, but if I have a real estate agent question, Dean knows how to be a businessman and figure out the answer to that. And then a lot of my success has come from this man here.
That's very nice. That's very nice.
No, it's so true because a lot of what I do as an agent is just like negotiating and finding the win-win and just like making it happen and not bothering a seller or bothering your client, your buyer. And Dean has been, you've negotiated contracts with some big companies in our city here, actually the nation actually, right? Yeah. So why don't you tell the audience, you're a contractor, but what's something interesting about you, about your university background that I find so fascinating?
That I'm of an economics background?
Yeah. So
yeah, it's a beautiful study. It's absolutely useless.
So you went to school at Western, for anybody,
school at Western.
University of Western Ontario.
Yeah.
For economics.
Yeah, and I figured out while taking economics courses that we were doing a comparative study between high school dropouts, university graduates, university like with post degrees and self-starters, and what age you are before you actually make more money than somebody who went and got a university degree versus a kid who dropped out of high school. And I realized that being in business for yourself and making it happen for yourself is more profitable than going to school. So
and it's such like a Ty Lopez-y like cliche now, and Gary Vee, like school's not where the money is. But when our generation, we were told to go to school.
We were definitely pushed to go to school and university with my age group, and then the following age groups was a lot of trade push, and then a lot of university push again, and it goes back and forth. But university, school is great for teaching you how to think. Now, unless you're in sociology, I mean, Jesus, I don't know why anybody takes it, but economics or business or accounting or even studying movies. These are good ways to train your brain to think because it gets you outside of the normal perspective of things, right? Otherwise, you go to school, you're given a set of disciplines that you have to master. You master those, you're graded on a test, You get out.
You gotta
and
memorize the answers.
Then you go to a job,
Mhm.
and they retrain you because it has nothing to do with your discipline.
There's no ROI on school.
You're only ever thinking, what do I need to know to get through this? What do I need to know to get through this? Whereas if you step,
how many people say, "Oh, I forgot all the answers the next morning," right?
well, right, but you didn't need them after that, so who cares?
Right.
Right. But if you hang on to one or two of those things, and that make you think,
Mm-hmm.
there's where the benefit of school is. If you just know what you learned,
Mm-hmm.
useless. This is just memorization.
Maybe good on Jeopardy.
You're right. But as far as if you take away from school or any training, doesn't matter if it's university or college or trade school or hanging out with you for a day, the limo tour, talking to Matt McKeever, right, about finances or investments. Everybody knows a little bit different than you know, and if you take their perspective away instead of just the hard information, then I think that's the approach you should take to everything. And that's what I loved about economics was, as useless as it is for me in my life, like if I wanted to go become an economist, okay, sure, great. But as useless as it is a discipline, I would think overall is just having an undergraduate degree in economics would be, unless you just wanted to get to the front of the line in a job search.
Yeah, like that's what school is promoting, I guess. Like,
It's the way you think. Economics is probably, I would think, the greatest subject.
So you go to school for economics, and then you say, "I'm gonna go pick up a hammer," and now like.
Well, no, I was already doing it.
A side hustle while you were at school.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was paying for school.
Because you didn't have help.
Doing it. I mean, you get help, right? I mean, your parents help you out, and you do get a little bit of help, but yeah, overall, no, right? So paying for school ourselves, it's not like, you know, we got 4 years of OSAP or anything like that, like we weren't qualified or to get it. Parents apparently made too much money, but 4 kids post-secondary school, all within 4.5 years of each other.
Right.
It's a big burden for anybody to bear. Yeah, so I was already doing it to pay my way through school, and I like it. Like, one of the things we learned at the same time we were figuring out, you know, who makes the most money and how old you are before you pass.
Well, first you would have worked for a crew, right?
Yeah, I worked for a couple of guys over the years, like in high school.
Was there a mentor that you then learned? No.
Well, yes,
you did?
yes, but you learn. Yeah, definitely, absolutely. There's a few guys that you learn from. I wouldn't mention their names because.
No. Mr. X.
Yeah, Mr. X. But yeah, you learn from them, and then you understand what you take away from it is how they were doing it wrong.
Right. Like.
Right.
I think that's the key in a lot of things.
There is.
You can identify that. You save so much money. It's like same reason why Matt and I put on so much, you know, talks and networking events. We're older now. We're in our 30s. Where the heck was this when we were 20?
Well, and that's what I tell my guys. Like, that being said, they did a ton of stuff right as well. It's not like they were doing everything wrong. But you take away from it what they're not doing well. And looking younger than I am, generally, I'm told, and like going back 11, 12 years, when people are like, really, you're the kid showing up to give me, to do this job or to take a look at this project? You really have to understand that there's always people who've been doing it a certain way. Well, if you want to be where that person is, then I say copy every single thing that they're doing. But if you want to be past them or better than them, then take what they have to offer that's valuable and figure out what they're doing wrong and then don't do that. That can be
real estate investor, that can be a real estate
agent.
Who it is,
or what it is, right?
Right, yeah.
So, and that's the big thing. And I tell my guys, like, by the time they're my age, the guys who work for me, there's some that aren't ambitious, there's some that are. But if they're not better off than I am, by the time they're my age, now I've got a good few years on them, then they're doing something wrong. Because I'm open with the advice and I'm willing to help them, and my network is their network, right? I don't need to stay on top of them. If I have, you know, you're in my network, you have a network, you know, other people that I have a network with, it's a giant network, right? So they have access to any opportunities that come along for me, but they have somebody to help them do it, financially as well as just as a mentor. And I'm willing to help. And you know, I like helping. I like teaching. So if they're really in the same position or worse off than me by the time they reach my age, they're not taking advantage of it.
And do you find that they do take advantage, or they're just on the ride?
It's a mix, right? Yeah. Like you get there's a little bit of both depending on who the each individual, right? Some of them, you know, takes them a long time to hear it, and then when they do hear it, it lights a fire under their ass. And then there's other guys who they knew early on that they weren't going to stick around a long time, right? But
yeah, because in trades, they're constantly kind of
Yeah,
coming
there's
and going,
yeah,
coming
and
going.
you know, a lot of the guys that have worked for me or with me over the years, you know, a lot of them have gone on to do their own thing, but they still call, they still come back, right? Which is still, they need something, they'll call me, which I take that as a compliment because they're still willing to ask for advice or you know, they didn't say, okay, I'm just gonna go and do my own thing and that's it. It's not. It's, they have a project they need help with. They call, hey, could you help me out with this? I have something. It's not like they're gone now, so there's no bad blood there, right? They're doing better than working for me. That's a good thing. So yes, I'll call them and now I'll hire them as a subcontractor, you know, as their own company to come back and help with projects that we need help with, which is the way it should be.
So what kind of networking have you been able to do by doing specific contracts, going above and beyond the actual like swinging the hammer and fixing something or building something?
Say that again.
You've met a lot of like
Yeah.
key people in the city,
Yeah,
going
you
across
meet a lot of
the
people
country,
right across country, and
they call you,
yeah,
and then they have drinks with you.
obviously we're not going to mention any names.
No, don't mention names, but I mean,
you
think about
learn
those
really.
opportunities. Like, how does that happen?
It's, you know what, word of mouth. That's really it. I mean, I've never advertised. Never
Never.
at all.
He's been talking about this since you've met.
Yeah,
right?
and actually, when I first started, the Yellow Pages were calling. Does your audience know what Yellow Pages are?
No, they're under.
Kids, ask your parents.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Yellow Pages. Anyway, they were calling all the time. Oh, you gotta advertise with us, advertise with us, advertise with us. And I've always taken the approach that 10%, that's your advertising, maximum. Like, if you spend more than 10% of your receivables on advertising, you're going crazy. Like, it's way too much. And it should actually be lower than that, but that would be an absolute max.
So should I have done the bus benches?
I told you, don't go near the bus benches, Jeff. What does he do? I'm gonna put my face on a bus bench. First, that's what he took away
one
from
cell, I
that.
would've
You
made
can
it
give
up.
advice, it doesn't mean they'll take you, right?
So
Yeah.
Don't buy bus
I
benches.
think his face was on bus benches on my way home that night. Yeah, like immediately. But yeah, the Yellow Pages were calling, and it was an old timer who told me, because I just asked him, I said, look, Tom, what do you think of this? You've been in business for 40 years or whatever. And he said, don't bother with it. He said, it's ridiculous. He said, there's one thing I've learned. He said, if you just do a good job, you're honest with people, word of mouth will build. It takes longer to build, but you'll stay longer.
And that's one of the things.
So I took that away from it.
You gave that to me.
Yeah, and
in real
somebody else
estate.
gave it to me. Right?
Like, don't worry about that crap. Just keep word of mouth.
That's it.
Keep finding your buyers good deals.
If you want to be
Then
a
they're
big
gonna be
business overnight,
You're gonna be at London on Fire, and they're gonna be like, oh, call Jeff, right? So.
yeah, you'll spend a lot of money real quick, and it doesn't mean you're gonna get anywhere or stay anywhere, right?
Exactly.
Nobody has an emotional connection to a flyer.
Right.
Nobody has an emotional connection to an ad they didn't click on or did click on Facebook. You use them once. If you develop a good rapport with them, okay, maybe that ad got you there.
Both
but
our
it
businesses
certainly
are
didn't call you
they're
back.
so word of mouth because nobody's gonna call the big billboard. They're gonna say, who'd you use to sell your house? Or when
That's
they see your
it.
kitchen, they're gonna be like, who did the kitchen? Or who did,
I don't even have a website.
no website. Like,
But I tell you,
how many people call you all the time?
oh
saying,
my God, 15 times a week, and they tell me I need a website.
Yeah, but then the
Why
best
do
part
I
is
need a
this,
website?
Dean will keep them on the phone for
Oh,
a
2
bit.
hours, man. I don't care.
Because you're like, okay, well explain man, why do I need a website? Oh, it's gonna get you clients. I have clients.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's gonna get you more clients. I don't need more work. I already have a ton of work.
Yeah, and the thing is, yes, I can expand, but the problem is, it's like advertising in, on Kijiji or the Penny Saver. It's great if you don't have work or you don't understand what you're doing,
And
which
the
is
top
fun.
level guys aren't going to the Yellow Pages.
No,
Or
they're
they're asking the other top level guy
Exactly.
to be like, who'd you use? Dean. Oh, okay.
And that's the one thing I learned, especially like right across from Newfoundland, right to Calgary. That's
Not even Vancouver?
or we've never done work in BC.
Okay.
Maybe that's because Hayes is there. We'll leave that for him.
Yeah, so guys are loving the video so far, guys, so keep up the great work. And so we got a couple questions. So Dean, what would you recommend if someone's hiring a contractor for the first time? What should they look at? Should they get multiple quotes? How many quotes? Is it always 3 people?
Get quotes. Honestly, in my market, there's a 300% difference in quotes. That's the average in Ontario anyway. It's 300%. So I could be 3 times more than the guy who quoted you as well, and the other guy could be anywhere in the middle. He could be real close to me, he could be dead center, he could be real close to the other guy. I would judge it more by feel. So there's something that I've never done. I never take my work clothes off. Right now, obviously I'm not working, but when I go to do a quote, I go dirty. Yeah, Matt's sitting there, sorry. I'm new to this. But yeah, I go dirty. So like if I just came off the job site, or even if I didn't work that day, if I was doing office work all day and I wasn't wearing my work clothes, I'll put my work clothes on and I'll go to that quote. And that's a business tip as well as a tip for who you should hire. If the guy shows up in a golf shirt and khakis, don't hire him. He's a project manager. He's probably got some glossy brochures. And there's one thing that I could never understand, and I've done small projects, really, really small, and to really, really big. And there's one thing I couldn't understand. How the hell do you manage my project from a desk? Right? A big commercial job like a hospital, they have their places, project managers. If it's your home, that's your castle. And for a lot of people, if it's a personal home, or even as an investor, if it's an investment property, you might not be emotionally attached to the home, but that is your money, and you're an investor, and you're taking risks for your own capital. So I imagine that you're very emotionally attached to your dollar. So if you're going to pay this guy money, and he's going to be trying to be at a desk and sending other people, and never showing up to site himself, I'm not saying he's got to be there the whole time, but he should look like he actually picks up a hammer once in a while. That's the guy I would go with. Price, I mean, within reason. You know, I'm not the cheapest guy in town. I'm not the most expensive guy in town. Sometimes the cheaper guy will do just as good a job. But I would go more with the vibe of the person, and is the person, are they a salesman? Because if they're a salesman, they've got to pay a salesman to be there. I don't have a salesman. Like, well, I guess I'm my own salesman. But if you have a salesman and you have big, fancy, glossy brochures, I don't have business cards either. I don't have business cards. I don't have a website.
Another thing I learned from this guy.
Right?
No
What for? I don't need it. So, you know what I do with my business cards? I stick them in my truck as soon as I get in them, or I throw them out because I got too many after a while. What am I, in 1980? I don't have a little Rolodex of business cards.
Yeah.
It's in my phone. You need my number? Here's my number. Like, who the hell holds on to a piece of paper? It's crazy. It's used car salesman. I don't like it. And that's how I would approach who to hire as a contractor. Get 3 quotes, do your due diligence, absolutely, but just go by feel. Who seems on? If they want you to sign a contract, throw them out the door, right away. I do business on a handshake, and it's done very well for me. Those are the kind of people I want to work for. Those are the kind of people I want to work with. And if you're trying to cross every T, dot every I, downloading contracts off the internet or whatever they're doing with all this money, forget about it. If you don't like each other or you need a contract, for small level stuff, I wouldn't even bother. Getting into multi-unit, high-rise, okay, it's a little different story. But for your average duplex, triplex, fourplex, investment property, stuff like that, do it on a handshake.
Is there a dollar threshold where in your mind it switches?
Yeah, I would say it's less okay, $500,000, I don't even sign a contract. So a lot of guys are like, you gotta sign one at 10 grand, you gotta
Who are those people saying that?
to sign a contract?
Yeah, like
a bunch of people who
peers?
are neither paying me
Yeah, exactly.
nor getting me to do work.
Mhm.
Right? So yeah, no, you know who they are? They're the guys who've been in business longer than me.
Yeah.
That still need that deposit for that $500 job.
Yeah.
They're doing a $3,000
You
job.
float
They
so
need
much.
that deposit. Yeah,
But
but
that's business, and like if I can relate back to like me as an agent, you told me very early on, like we have to sign a buyer rep agreement, right? Some agents will get you to sign that day
Crazy.
one, holds you for the 3 months, 6 months, whatever you do,
what I say, be good at your job, Jeff.
because then they need you,
Yeah.
right? I don't get none of you guys to sign that. Why? Because I have the private listings. Dean has all the networking connections to renovate properties
That's what I said.
properly.
Why would you lock them in? Be good at your
And-
job,
and-
they'll call you back.
And a lot of like people online will put in the group forums being like, does anyone know a cheap electrician? Does anybody know a cheap? And it's like, why do you always want the cheapest?
Numbers
when-
are numbers. You should know your budget
Mm-hmm.
based on your projections. If you know,
But how many times did they say, hey, we just hired this guy to do this and he effed it up and
Yeah, it happens.
and then we're gonna
Yeah.
now pay you. Like,
Yeah.
they wanted the cheapest, cause they
It costs me more to fix it.
right.
It always costs more to fix it.
People are loving the conversation, guys. So a couple of them are wondering, they think it's scary for a new investor to not have a contract signed with a contractor, right? So
Yeah,
how
well-
do you depend? Is it reputation or
Yeah,
like
well,
how do you trust
you know
people?
what? Word of mouth. So, hey, Jeff,
Mm.
who do you use?
Right.
Hey, Matt, who have you used? Dean, do you do this or do you know a guy who does this?
I found this guy in the Yellow Pages.
Ask other investors. That's your best way.
And that's what you would do for
Because-
anything, right?
Yeah, for anything. You get 3 quotes, but I mean, I wouldn't take a quote from a guy, he's cheaper, but this guy knows this guy that I've worked with for 7 years, I know he's not gonna screw it up, right?
Mhm.
He's referral. Put more weight on referral. Now,
Right.
not to say that you can't use a new contractor, sometimes you can't find anybody and you have to take a chance, but my question to you is, if you have a contract with them, there's this weird thing that people seem to think, which is the customer's always right. Now, sure, the customer's always right. Yes, you're paying me, but do you know why you're paying me? You're paying me because I'm letting you pay me. And that's something that in today's economy, people don't understand. Trades have you by the balls. I do this every day, and I have a hard time finding subs because anybody who's good is so busy. So if a guy's able to start tomorrow, maybe you should ask why. But also, if you're an investor, you should also understand that you're not going for grade A quality work. You're going for a flip. Now, not to say that you shouldn't do a decent job, but it's painters build straight walls. Everything doesn't have to be 100% perfect. And the customer who's buying your property will never know if it's not 100% perfect. If you're too anal, you're never going to find the work for the price you want. Like, they do somewhat correlate, the price being charged and the quality of work delivered. And if the guy's available right away, a lot of times there's a reason. Not always, but a lot of times there's a reason. But I would just go with Vibe. Are you going to enforce the contract? What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
He's got to work
in small
tomorrow.
claim court?
Like, yeah, 2 years in small claim court. You've got a property, you've got carrying costs on. You need your property finished. You need him out of the way. You need him not to cause you any trouble if he's not a good contractor. And you need to get another contractor as quick as possible. You're never going to enforce the contract, so don't worry about it. If you do enforce the contract, you're absolutely crazy because you're going to blow more time and money than it would just to move on. And where's your peace of mind in it?
Mhm.
Oh, I signed a piece of paper. He's got work. Understand, he has you by the balls. You might have the advantage
Oh.
that he doesn't understand that,
Mhm.
but I'll tell you, in this market, you can pick and choose if you're in the trades. I don't need to do work for a single investor. In fact, Jeff's first property, I don't know how much work we did there. I never even wrote him an invoice because I would never do work for him if he wasn't my buddy.
Mhm.
Like, as a company, I would never do work for him.
I know. Some people ask like, "Oh, can I use Dean?" I was like, "Listen, Dean's doing some stuff for me right now, but he does stuff for this, and this. He really does not want to be doing my stuff.
No,
So
I'm
you're
only-
never gonna get him.
I'm only doing it because
Because I
I
take
know.
him to Ireland."
yeah, that's a whole different story there.
So Dean, should people, what amount should they pay up front to contractors?
Okay, this one I love. So if a contractor asks you for money before the day he shows up with material, do not use him at all. Oh, yeah, sorry. So if a contractor shows up and he wants to sign a contract, or let's say he decides not to sign a contract, but he wants a deposit before he shows up at your house to do work. If he wants a deposit to hold the spot, don't do it. If he shows up at your house day one and he wants a deposit, and he hasn't brought any material, he's just doing demo or something, don't use him. If he shows up and he has material and he wants a deposit day one, that's fair. And what I like to do is 50-50. So let's say material is 50% of the job's $10,000. He wants a deposit of $5,000 day before he goes gets material. I don't like it. He shows up with half the material day one, you give him 30%. So he's already put out $2,500 and you're giving him $3,300. He's already taken a $2,500 risk. Now you're giving him $3,300. You're taking an $800 risk. This is fair, right? He should be in business long enough to at least have enough bank to show up at your job with a deposit. Anything under 10,000. If the job is over 10,000, yes, you can give him a small deposit up front, but it should be around no more than 10% until he shows up with product on your site. Once he brings product to your site, he's shelled out. He's shown that he can be trusted, that he has money to fix problems. You give him 3,300. 33% I think is a fair amount. Then when he gets to a certain stage on a job, you give him more. So maybe it's when drywall's hung. When drywall's hung, you give him another 33%. Yes, you're ahead of him. He's probably at that stage bought 90% of the materials. If drywall's up, right? Flooring might not be in, so it might be 65 to 70, but it would be on its way very shortly. Let's be honest, paint's nothing. The electrical's been done by then. The plumbing's been done by then. Anything structural's been done by then. So yeah, give him another 33%. So the second one's a huge chunk, and it's labor you're paying for now. And then the last one, yeah, give him the 33% right before paint. You know, flooring's down. You know, doors are in, trim's in, right before paint's done. Right? Give him the other 30% even, whatever. Hold back 5 or 10. You can adjust it slightly. But you don't have to use my exact numbers. The whole point is understand what his risk is and understand what your risk is. His risk is money he has to put out, so material and mobilization costs of any labor, before he gets to your house. He's taking that risk, and he should take that risk up front to show up at your house. You're a fixed location. You're a fixed project. He takes your money. He's mobile. So it's fair for him to assume that risk up front. But it's also fair for him to get paid for being an honest person and showing up and doing the work. He shelled out $2,500 bucks. There's no reason. He's not a bank. He shouldn't carry that for you. Give him the $3,300 bucks. Now you're taking an $800 risk. Still a much smaller risk, but then again, nothing's been done. So now once he puts up some walls and drywall, which goes up fairly quickly, you give him a large chunk. Now, yeah, maybe you're ahead of him by, $1,500 bucks. But he's shown that he showed up. He's put the product up. Once he puts it up, he legally can't take it down. So you own that material, you own that labor, you own everything. He can sue you, but he can't take it down legally. So it's yours. So it's fair to pay him. And then, yeah, the rest of the job, it could be 25% the next one, or 10, 15, whatever. Just work it out. And the other reason you don't give him a deposit before he shows up at your house, God forbid, he pulls out of your driveway and gets T-boned on his way home. Mm-hmm. He's dead and never answers his phone again. You don't know. Tragic, but your money's gone. So why would you give him money like the day of signing? One, don't sign a contract. Two, don't ever give him money.
People are loving this. And so we got a question from Gary, and Gary wants to know, how do you protect yourself from a contractor putting a lien on your property for non-payment of funds?
Pay him.
How do you prove who's in the right?
Where you pay him. That's how you protect yourself from a lien. If he puts a lien on your property, one, he's probably an okay contractor, because any fly-by-night, hot-off-the-handle idiot, generally, they only have 45 days from the last day they worked anyway to put a lien. So within 45 days, if two grown-up people can't resolve it, there's something else going on there, generally in my experience. If you're not paying them, you made a big mistake a long time before the house was finished. He was doing something very, very wrong, and like I said, the project manager can't do it from behind a desk. It's your investment, it's your money. Why weren't you on site? Like, I'm not saying you have to know how to do everything, but you should understand what your trades are doing and when they're supposed to do it. There's nothing wrong with understanding why what everybody's job is and how a job should be run. I'm not saying walk in there and tell a general how to run the job, but you should be able to spot when it's going wrong a long time before you have to ask. There's something I was always told too, is if you have to ask who's in charge of it or whose problem it is, it's too late. So before you have to go and ask what's going on or why is this taking so long, you need to know. So do a little bit of homework, Google a few things, understand the basics. You don't have to bang the sticks together yourself. You don't have to hang the board yourself. You don't have to kick the carpet yourself. But you should have a basic understanding of how the process works. I mean, it's your money. If you pick a shady guy, you're getting ripped off. If you pick a good guy, you're not getting ripped off. It's a risk. That's what it is.
And so people are wondering, so since there's not a contract in place, how do you make sure everyone's on the same page about the scope of work?
Okay, so here's another thing. anytime I write an estimate and I send it, it is vague. I keep it, it's not extremely vague, but it's somewhat vague. And there's two reasons for that. One, you'll find people will be real sticklers. And they'll want it, oh, I wrote approximately 300 square feet, and they say, oh, it's 297. You want $6 back? Like, what do you want from me? So I don't have to, and I don't want to, so I don't work for these people. A lot of my customers are like, what's this gonna cost me? You know, give me is this 5,000? Is this 20,000? Like, where are we here? You tell me within $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
Because they know what their budget is. A good customer to me will tell me what their budget is. Because a lot of times they don't have, especially with investors or people new to investing, they're so worried about, oh, you know, I want to get it so cheap. Things cost what they cost for a reason. Returns are what they are for a reason. There's an entire banking system and a massive real estate and investment system that has been operating since the beginning of time. The first fire department in the world was actually the largest real estate company to ever exist on the planet, still to date. You can Google that, I'm not going to get into it. But it's a brilliant story. Great entrepreneur. Richest man in history ever. But anyway, I'm a little off.
Also, you said the cost of materials. Talk about from what they were, what, 5 years ago to today?
They've gone up
Talk
more than
about
50%,
lumber,
right?
talk about-
Lumber's gone up, doors have gone up, trim's gone up, carpet's gone up, labor's gone up. But basically, back to what I was saying before we get too off topic, to answer his question, is if you have a budget in mind, you don't have to tell them the exact budget, but let them know where you're thinking. If your numbers are your numbers, you know what you can spend and what you can't. So change, if you can't fit everything you want to do into a scope of work, change the finishing product. So get a 40-cent tile instead of, you know, a $10 tile. Because I'll tell you, I've put down $35 square foot Italian stone, and I've put down 99-cent tiles, and honestly, I could not believe I couldn't tell the fucking difference. I mean, it's ridiculous.
There goes the monetization.
But no, basically, like,
What's the cheapest reno?
the cheapest reno?
Yeah.
Paint. Paint's the cheapest mistake too.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting off topic. I'm trying to answer this guy's question.
Answer the question.
I'm trying to remember where I was now. But yeah, scope of work. Here's what I like to do with my trades. When my plumber, I'll walk them through the job and I'll say, listen, I'm putting a bathroom here. I'm putting a kitchen here. I'm gonna have a dishwasher. There's gonna be a sink, tap, single handle, bathroom. There's gonna be the vanity. And here's when you should work out. This is where, okay, scope of work. Who mounts the vanity? If you're generaling the job, stuff like this matters. If you're not generaling the job and you're hiring a contractor, then you don't care. Because what I do with my plumber and my trades. I want a bathtub here. I want a new shower handle here, a new faucet here, rain shower, whatever the hell it is you want. Toilet goes here, right? You can even mark an X on the ground. Don't worry about drawing stuff. You're ripping it all out or replacing the flooring. This is your job. I don't want to touch anything plumbing. This is your job. Same way with your general. Here's the key. I want the key back. Everything's done. If that's your scope. Instead of trying to get an exact scope, what I like to do, which is better, is let's say you want to paint. Only write down the things that he's not responsible for. So prime and paint, my responsibility. Touch-ups in mud and tape, contractor's responsibility after priming. Right? Don't try to force him to do mud and tape touch-ups before priming. It's the stupidest thing you can do. Because what you're left with is a shit ton of touch-ups after you paint. And then he's not going to come back because he already did his touch-ups. Little things like this, but you don't have to say, oh, you have to come back after. Just write down what he's not responsible for. It's a lot easier, it's a lot shorter list than trying to write down what he is responsible for.
That's awesome. And so just to let you guys know, lots of activity in the comment section. Jesse Moser said you're a boss. And
Thanks, Jesse.
Bill W wanted to know, he said, I'd hire Dean, but are there many contractors like Dean out there?
No.
How do I find a Dean?
Word of mouth. So I don't know where he's from or what city he's in, but yeah, find out who else is doing a rental or what you're doing. Even if you're driving by, you're driving down a residential street and you see someone with contractors working. Drive by at 5 o'clock at night. Go knock on their door. Hey, who are you using and are you happy with them? If people are happy, they are more than willing to tell you about it because they're happy and proud of their renovation. And it doesn't have to be an investment property. It could be, you know, they're redoing their kitchen or their bathroom or whatever. But people will want to show you and people want to tell you because generally people have saved and saved and saved, or they've wanted this for 20 years. And this is the biggest, and this is one thing that I've told Jeff 100 times. For me, it's just another job. I don't give a shit about your job at the end of the day. I do, as far as it has to be proper, it has to be correct, it has to look good, I have to be happy with the result. And I want you to be happy with the result. But I don't have to live it. I don't ever have to see it again. How many times I get asked, oh, Dean, do you have pictures? No, I don't. I don't have before pictures, and I don't have after pictures. Why? I don't know. I never stopped to think about it. I don't really care. What I know is that A has to go before B, and when you do that, C works out perfect. So I spend more time worrying about what you want than where I'm putting this wall. Because I can move a wall. It's easy for me, and it should be easy for any contractor. And any contractor who is like, well, I'm not sure what it could cost when we open up the walls if we find this, send them back, right? I don't know what I'm going to see when I open up a wall. In fact, the worst job I ever walked into was Jeff's job. When we opened something up, I couldn't believe what we got into. That was the worst one ever. But instead of trying to cost Jeff a boatload of money, I did that properly, and you know, I consulted with other guys. I said, have you ever seen this before? This is, like, I don't even know how they did it. Like, magic. I don't know how this thing was standing. But anyway, we fixed it. Now it's good. It's proper. But yeah, if he can't tell you what he could possibly run into and give you a ballpark, like, okay, the only thing I could see we could run into with this job is this. Worst case scenario, it's an extra $400. Or, you know, it's big, it's structural, you know, it could be well, we open that up and you could be talking an extra 10 or 20 grand. So sometimes you don't get into that much of a reno, right? Because he can tell you up front. We'll do that, but once we open it up, if it's this, you're talking 10 or 20 grand. Yeah, okay, well, yeah, no, let's just do it because, you know what, if I open this up, in worst case scenario, it's going to be $300 to fix it. Okay, let's do a reno that scope. Otherwise, okay, let's leave that alone, and maybe we'll focus just on this part, you know? And there's one thing, I don't know, Jeff and I talk all the time, but one thing we always talk about is what's your value? Like, are you getting the value out of it? So, nobody gives a shit if you put in $5 light fixtures or $100 light fixtures.
Especially rental.
If it's rentals, even if it's a flip, nobody gives a shit.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. $1 tile, $20 tile. Nobody gives a shit. It makes me laugh when investors or flippers get emotionally attached to their properties. It's what are you living here? No. Like, what's your issue?
I would, if I don't like it, then the next person won't like it.
I don't care what you like.
Yeah.
Neutral colors.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit if blues and oranges are all the rage at the resort you went to down south and you loved it. Nobody likes that shit but you. Keep it simple. Keep it neutral. Put in as little money as possible to give them a proper build. Don't be a slumlord. Put in nice stuff. Put in new stuff. The best, dirtiest, sexiest business move that was ever made in the building industry was open concept. I took houses that used to have all this extra material and walls and doors and trim and all this extra labor to put it all together, and I took it all out and I charged you 3 times as much because it was open concept. My
Good
trades
marketing.
made, oh, it's brilliant. It was the greatest scam in the world. And then when you guys started to accept that as normal, what did I do? I took the 2-story house and I made it a 1-story house, still open concept. So now I don't even have extra floors. And what I do, I put a real tall roof on it. So I put a 30% taller roof on the thing, paid a couple extra bucks for shingles, and a couple extra bucks for larger roof trusses, and then I charged you like I was selling you a 2-story house, and you loved it. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Why? Modern. Neutral colors. That's how these things pedal. It's new. So when you renovate, go contemporary. Spend your money on the things that matter. White kitchens, love them. They never go out of stock.
Write this down.
Oh, yeah. Dark cabinets, 5 years, they could be dated. White cabinets. Keep everything white. Trim, white. Yeah, gray became popular for white. Ceilings, white. Makes your room look tall. Even though, oh, it's so modern, the paint, don't care. It's modern today, might not be modern tomorrow. What'll be modern and acceptable is a white ceiling. Just, keep it simple. I don't even remember the question.
People are loving it, so
How many
it doesn't
people are on
matter.
the chat or on the?
So I think we've had around 20 at
Nice.
peak, and lots of smashers of like. People are saying you're legit. They're loving it. Someone wants you to say the word swaggy mellow. I don't know.
Swaggy mellow? Alright.
Awesome. And so someone wants to know if they're looking to get into flipping a rental property or flipping rentals, should they partner with a contractor? Should they get a stable of contractors?
Either way, actually, you know what? One thing that I've heard you say is getting rich is a team sport. I've heard
You
that.
can call it that. You can call it
No,
Call
no,
that.
I'll
Call
leave,
that.
I'll leave that for Matt. That's fine. And you know what? I always say, like, yeah, 10. I don't know if you guys have talked about this on the show before, but I always say, hey, look, $10,000 businesses, which are super easy to manage, is still $100 grand a year.
Yeah, say it again. So you can-
$10,000 businesses is still $100 grand a year. So, you know, I want to make 6 figures. Okay, go compete with everybody else trying to get a job for $100,000 a year, or try to grind it out, make it yourself with the government breathing down your back for taxes and your liability and insurances and everything else. Sell a couple things, some Kijiji for 10 grand. That's one business, takes you no time. Oh, something else, 10 grand.
It's
This
really
10 grand.
profitable
This
limo
10 grand.
tour.
There's a
You
limo
know,
tour, yeah.
you got this really profitable cash flow to go show.
Yeah, just change your perspective, right? Oh, I want to make 100 grand, so I gotta, flip
think-
this
yeah, you
house
think-
and this. No, you don't. Paint and flooring. Buy some houses in the shitty end of town. Make 20 grand a house, but you're painting flooring. You're in and out in a week, right? Where's your carrying costs? They're lower because the house price was lower, and you're only doing paint and flooring. Whereas you get into the higher end stuff, you got to do a kitchen. You got 3-month projects. Like, do 5 small houses in half a year instead of one big house and hope you hit your 100,000. Like, always understand your goal, and your goal is money. So, should you partner? Yeah, sure. Should you not partner? Yeah, sure. If you can,
Well,
Why
why would you invest with an investor? Do they have the money, or like,
Uh,
you want to work with them at your level now, or?
both. Like I said, it's a team sport. So, Jeff and I'll go and we'll go in on stuff together. We've done things together before. Could I have done it alone? Sure. Could he have done some stuff
It's
alone?
kind of nice to
Sure.
like,
But
because you got this $10,000 businesses. You're not just like
Yeah.
I'm all in with my over here, right? We're like kind of both in on this one. We're both in
Yeah.
on that one.
and at the end of the day, it's a risk. So why not mitigate it by laying it off on his money, right? I'll lay it off on him, just like your contractor. Lay it off on your contractor a little bit. The only thing about joint venturing with a contractor that I can see a downside to is it's very gray area as to what is his role. So, like, what's his labor worth? What's his end of it worth versus what's your money? And unless that's clear, and you guys are both on the same page, this is where putting something on paper is valuable. Now, that's a contract with a contractor, but it's not a contract with a contractor for being a contractor, if you know what I'm saying. A partnership should be very well defined. Now, that being said, Jeff and I have never signed a piece of paper or even written anything down.
He knows where I live.
Yeah. But I just think